Samsara. In Buddhism, samsara is the continuous cycle of life, death, and rebirth without beginning or end. Buddhism in general, and samsara in particular, are recurring themes in both Void Stranger and its predecessor game, Zero Ranger. Without really spoiling anything about Zero Ranger, I can say that references to Buddhism in that game were rather overt. At one point, you encounter a Buddhist monk. You see a depiction of the six paths. The Steam trading cards depict the same characters with slightly different names, leading slightly different lives. And the bullet points describing this bullet hell game on the Steam store page say that there's an endless cycle of life and death. The game's tagline is, "May you reach enlightenment." That's some heavy-handed samsara. Void Stranger, on the other hand, is a puzzle game, and so its references to Buddhism are a little bit more obscured. In today's lore video, we'll be puzzling out those connections. And the usual spoiler warnings for Void Stranger, you know the drill. Usual disclaimers as well. I'm no expert, I'm just reading Wikipedia. Let's start by talking about the six paths, also known as the six realms. Starting from the top and going clockwise, we have Devas, who are the gods, Manusya, who are the humans, Tiryag, who are the animals, Naraka, who are the hell beings, Preta, who are the hungry ghosts, and Asuras, who are the demigods. In Void Stranger, this was depicted in the bedtime story. In the beginning, when sky and earth were still one and the same, a flower bloomed, lighting up the space with stars. Beings who basked in their light were granted both thought and emotion. Among those beings were humans. We witness the six realms, labeled with their first initials, circling like planets orbiting a star. And their proximity to the star's light matters. Starting from the center, we have the Devas, the gods, with the most light. Then next, Manusya, the humans. Then the Asuras, the demigods. Then farther out we have the Tiryag, the animals. Then we have the Preta, the hungry ghosts. And furthest from the star's light we have the Naraka, the hell beings. And note that we also see the same six realms and initials on the background of the picture revealed in the Engrave Your Brand screen. In the samsara cycle of death and rebirth, one is born into one of the six realms based on the karma of their past lives. Karma represents the deliberate actions one made during their life, and good karma can lead to being reborn in the higher realm, whereas bad karma can lead to being reborn in the lower realm. The only way out of the samsara cycle is to reach enlightenment, or nirvana, which is something that originates in the Manusya realm, which is what makes humans special among the six realms. Nirvana is achieved by unfettering oneself from various attachments, such as attachments to identity or self, attachments to rites or rituals, as well as ridding oneself from sensuous cravings or earthly desires, as well as getting rid of feelings of ill will. And while it's a little bit of a stretch to read things this way, we can imagine that some of Princess Lily's tantrums demonstrate her trying to cast off her own identity as the princess, and all the associated rituals that it put her through. And as for modern Lily, we actually have good evidence that she was free from carnal or other desires, and that by the end of the story, she was also free from any ill will. So perhaps there is some story evidence for why this particular bloodline is the one sought after by Dis's awakening. Let's go back to considering the six realms. Each of the realms is represented in Void Stranger by certain characters. The Devas, or gods, I think are Ad and Zero. Manusya are well represented in the many human characters that we see throughout Void Stranger. The Tiryag are represented as the many monster animals we encounter in the Void, maggots and leeches and such. The Naraka are the onion hell beasts that we witness in the two carcass endings. The Preta are the hungry souls we encounter who are looking for food. And finally, the Asura are the Void Lords themselves, the demigods of the realm. And while a soul would spend its life in one realm, it could later be reincarnated into another. We see this with Ad, a Deva, reborn as Gray, a Manusya, and the full brand screen could be interpreted as just this, with a picture of Ad stepping off of the Deva circle and onto the Manusya circle. And while digging around in the 6 realms, I couldn't help but look for what else I saw 6 of in Void Stranger. I talked about karma before. It is noteworthy that the descriptions of karma use words of fruit. The fruits of your life lead to the ripening of your karma. And in Void Stranger, there are 6 secret fruits to find, which, for reasons from outside Void Stranger, I believe are properly labeled as yellow daikon, blue banana, white vanilla, black onion, green orange, and red avocado. I'd also speculate that these might correspond to the 6 realms. Onions would of course be Naraka, as the hell beings we see in the Carcass endings are represented as onions. In Zero Ranger, I think the Earth-like planet, or maybe the people there, were referred to as Daikon, so I think Daikon could represent Manusya. The avocado is the only Void Stranger secret fruit that we find in Dis, underneath an Ad idol in the final section of the game, and since Ad is Diva, I think that means perhaps the avocado might be as well. But I'm unsure about associating the rest of the fruit, and honestly, I might be trying to invent connections that are not intended. And as a quick aside, it is perhaps noteworthy to note that white vanilla, black onion, and green orange are the names of 3 game modes of Zero Ranger, though black onion hasn't been released yet. And in Void Stranger, white vanilla, black onion, and green orange were the fruits that were hidden underneath B and Sif idols. And B and Sif share a lot in common with the 2 playable characters of Zero Ranger. But we're kind of drifting away from our topic at this point. While I was looking for other things that I saw 6 of, I also noticed hexagons. The Dark Comet Lilith is full of hexagons. When you cross the comet threshold at the top here, you can see them. Then tiling the sphere, and in the interior you just see hexagons in the background as well. When you fight Lev's statue form, there are 6 targets. And back when you fight Lev RPG style earlier, Lev's shield uses hexagons. When Dis was rejecting Lev for Lily, it also showed up as tiled hexagons. The carcass in Brain Null, unsurprisingly perhaps, mimics the comet. It appears to be a broken sphere, but if you look at it carefully, especially the left-hand side, you can see the spherical surface is tiled by hexagons. And it's not just that. The treasure hunter's campsite outside of the Dis ziggurat features hexagonal cracks on the ground, and a hexagonal tent. And there are 6 white birds that fly off toward the ziggurat. And we can also see what I think are hexagonal cracks on the skin of creatures in the void. The hungry lost souls seem to have hexagonal patterns in their skin cracks. So does Sif on their statue. And even though I didn't actually solve the bee jigsaw puzzle, you can see the hexagonal cracks on their skin as well. What does all of this mean, if anything? I don't know. If you have ideas, let me know. Getting back to Buddhism, let's talk about Devanam Indra Sakra. Sakra is the lord of the Devas. In Sanskrit, it would be Sakra Devanam Indra. And I should mention, by the way, I don't speak other languages, so I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciations along the way. I expect that System Erasure, the game developers, chose to reorder the words of the name so that it becomes the acronym DIS, Dis, as Dis could be interpreted as the City of Hell from Dante's Inferno, as well as a shortened form of Paradiso, the 3rd part of the Divine Comedy, which features traveling the celestial spheres of heaven, which I feel like we see in the backgrounds of certain screens during Dis gameplay. Indeed, other folks have stitched together all the screens of Dis to try to see the entire system. It looks kinda cool. But in any case, Devanam Indra Sakra, Dis, seems to refer to both the primeval fighter mech that Lev climbs into, as well as the whole research station base that the scientists constructed around it, and its computer intelligence, or something. The story, or my understanding of it at least, is still a little bit muddled here. As is my understanding of the gods. Indra is kind of another name for Sakra, but I guess Indra is more of an Indian version, and Sakra is more just from Buddhism. Indra, by the way, is more of like a thunder and sky god, a bit like Zeus, so it's kind of no wonder that Lev and their lightning bolts are drawn to it. But in general, from what I've been reading, there's actually been a number of changes that I see, depending upon exactly what source entries I'm reading, and whether it comes from Sanskrit or Hindu texts. There's also changes over time, like the 6 realms of Buddhism used to just be 5 realms in some original Buddhist writings, and so I feel like it's kind of appropriate that this is also the point in the Void Stranger story where things just go off the rails. The developers have thrown in Buddhism, science fiction, and Dante all into a pot, stirred it up, and used this moment to send the puzzle game of Void Stranger back in time, diegetically, to its shoot-'em-up origins. So rather than try to explain that which might be inexplicable, let me finish up with a couple more things that we can relate between Void Stranger and Buddhism. Dharma Chakra is the wheel of Dharma, which looks kind of like the steering wheel of a ship. It's a symbol of Buddhism representing the Noble Eightfold Path, which describes the practices of living good lives that could eventually lead to nirvana and escape from samsara. And I think it might be represented in the Chamber of Dis. We perhaps see another depiction of the 6 realms in the center, but on the outside there are 8 orbs, which, while they may represent the Void Lords, they might also depict the 8 spokes of the Dharma wheel. When I entered this room in my Let's Play, I think I even said that it reminded me of the Continue system of Zero Ranger, which also features 8 orbs that fill up as you raise your score, and seem to more clearly depict a Dharma wheel. One more thing, one school of Buddhism that people may have heard of is Zen Buddhism, and in Zen, the Enzo symbolizes absolute enlightenment, strength, elegance, the universe, and Mu, the void. An Enzo is a hand-painted circle drawn in a free brushstroke, and it was pointed out to me that the Justice Court opens with an Enzo painted around a 4-pointed star. So that sums up all the depictions of Buddhism that I found in Void Stranger. Samsara and the 6 realms of rebirth are well represented, and then there's just a sprinkling of other Buddhist symbols in the game. Hopefully you learned a little something along the way. I am Dr. Brian Lorgon 111, and I've made a number of videos describing the lore of Void Stranger and the source materials that it draws from. Check out the playlist in the description. And you can also watch my full Let's Play through the game if you'd like to re-experience the game yourself. I hope, as always, that you all are having a great day.